Morning, everybody. How you doing? Get this a little bit closer. Is that better? There we go. Good day. Thank the council for voting in the sunny day and getting the rain to go away for a minute. One of the many things done right. And hopefully we'll vote for some more rain after this is done. It is a real honor to welcome you all today. This exciting ribbon cutting ceremony for Prescott's new water production facility and intermediate pump station and tank site. I hope you've been as awestruck as I was as I look at the tanks and all the equipment behind me. This is more than a new facility. It is a major milestone in our ongoing commitment to ensuring a reliable, sustainable water future for our city. Here in Prescott, we know how precious water is. Living in the high desert, we've always understood the need to plan wisely, use carefully, and invest boldly in the resources that sustain our way of life. Today's event marks a major step forward in that mission. These new tanks and the pump stations will improve our water pressure, expand storage capacity, and provide fire protection and support for the growing needs of our community. This infrastructure that touches every household and helps preserve the quality of life that makes Prescott such a special place to live. The project didn't come together overnight, as you know. It's the result of years of planning, engineering, and collaboration. To everyone who contributed, thank you so much for your contributions. Your hard work has made this day possible. But this is about more than tanks, pipes, and pumps. It's about our community. It's about providing our residents with peace of mind, knowing they can rely on clean, safe water each and every day. And it's about laying the foundation for a future where growth doesn't come at the cost of sustainability. Thank you for being part of this moment. The future of Prescott is strong, and today it flows forward. I hope you love the pun. I've been a dad for a long time. It just comes. I'd like to present Mike Young, former City of Prescott employee and current president of FAN Environmental. Welcome, Mike.
Well, this project's somewhat of a personal legacy project for me. It's been a long time coming for sure. Almost 40 years ago, I started working for the city of Prescott, and when we first started, there was only a 12-inch water line coming from Chino to town, and two small 125,000-gallon storage tanks out there, which when you're pumping 8 to 10 million gallons a day, it was a chore just to keep everything going because you had to match your well flows coming in from the wells with the water going out of them. So, and the water was going in and out as fast as you can imagine. It's like a wash machine if you look down inside the tanks. And they were old. They, lots of holes and rags and redwood plugs to plug them up and keep them going. And then we eventually got put in the 5 million gallon storage tank, and that made a big, huge difference for everything that we've done. At that point, it was easy in comparison. So we were able to pump from the wells and keep the tanks full, and we were able to take advantage of the off-peak pumping for the first time with APS and saved quite a bit of money, and it really worked out well to be able to do that. And then not too long after that, the 36-inch water line or 18-inch water line went in first, and then that helped because it lowered the discharge pressures and allowed more water to go through the piping, and it picked it up, so that made things a lot easier and lowered the pressures. When the 12-inch was out there, we pumping sometimes 450 pounds leaving Chino to get it to town. And the 36-inch line, what came in the late 90s, early 2000s, I guess. And when that got put in, that made even a bigger difference, obviously. And that allowed us to get the water to where we needed to have it. There were times in the past where in the 4th of July in town, when everybody was here and everything was going on, we couldn't get enough water to town, couldn't move enough water around town. So we actually took some of the old retired fire trucks and we used them to pump water from one pressure zone to the other. Actually, with some strategic fire hydrants put on one corner and one on another that were in two different pressure zones. We were able to pump between them. And Indian Hill, I've seen that where it was completely empty inside the tank, looking down the pipe and watching the water going up and down and hoping that we'd get it there. So, we were in constant contact with the fire department. And of course, in those days, all we had were two-way radios and pagers. And that was tricky to keep up with it that way. I mean, with the cell phones and stuff we have today, it's just a lot easier. The SCADA, the technology that's been brought on is amazing. The SCADA we had in the old days was the lady that lived at the highest top of the hill. She was the first one to run out. So you got that phone call, you knew you had to run. So try and keep everybody else in water. So it's come a long, long ways, obviously. So it's been good to see it go all the way along, and we've had a little bit of a part in seeing it go, and we've been honored and proud to just be part of the project, and it's something that everybody's been looking for a long time. I know it'll make the operators sleep a lot better at night. Now they can move water and keep the tanks full without even thinking about it, so it'll make a big difference for sure. And that's about what I got, so thank you.
Good morning. What a proud day for all of us, and the community doesn't know it, but it's a proud day for them as well. Just bringing some additional assured water to the community, and it's been quite the project to get to this point. So excited to be here. While Mike talks about the past, the history of the project and how we got here, I'm up here to talk a little bit about the project itself. So my name is Jason, Fan Contracting President, and in partnership with Fan Environmental. A lot of people ask, Fan Contracting, Fan Environmental joint venture. And so that was the team that was assembled in the pursuit of this project, which was under a CMAR, which I'll talk about in a minute. And that we're two different companies. Mike is the president of Fan Environmental, and I'm of Fan Contracting. We had to assemble the two entities to put together both of our expertise, which theirs is typically above ground piping and water and operation, maintenance, sewer, and then of course Fan Contracting on the civil side. And so what you gain out of that is the expertise from both divisions on a project like this, which is very important. So CMAR, Construction Manager at Risk. What is CMAR? That is a contract form alternative delivery method based on qualifications. And so with the assembly of our joint venture, that put together a team of experts that can help through the design process and through construction that are kind of the best of their business and their trade and their area of work. And the value you get out of a CMAR contract that the city benefits from is, cost certainty. So we provide a guaranteed maximum price, and that's a ceiling, a cap. This particular project had 6 GMPs, which is pretty unique, and it's phased. You get early contractor involvement, and those experts get to work with the design team and the owner to try and, come up with value engineering ideas, cost efficiency, time efficiency, expertise in the design, look out for areas of risk, and kind of work with that team through the design process to get to a GMP and then go to construction. It's risk reduction for owners. We assume the responsibility for those cost overruns. And some of the challenges, which we did have several challenges, to say the least, on this project that I'll review in a minute. Improve collaboration, working with water department, working with public works, working with the design team, the sub-trades. You get a pretty cohesive team to get there. You get faster project delivery. So the purpose of the phased GMPs is so while we're finishing design at intermediate pump station here, we're under construction at the water production facility in Chino Valley. And so with all of the pieces that it took to put this whole program, we'll call it, together, you're allowed to start work under those GMPs earlier and while design's completing. An added level of quality control goes in that process, both in the design and then during construction. Us being locals and having kind of that added level of care and interest, certainly with our expertise has been a benefit. You get transparency in the cost proposal. It's full open book. You get to see all the guts of how we got to that. You know, the city did a good job vetting through that, and a lot of negotiations to get through those GMPs, and then flexibility on changes. And some of that includes extra work that we'd done as a part of the contract and still stayed within budget. So on the project, we had 4 or 6 GMPs. The first one, of course, is the design phase services. And in that is our participation throughout the design process. The GMP number 2, which was the first construction GMP, was the water production facility, and that started in earnest in 2021. So you think about how long it's taken to get here, and that was a modification and upgrade at the water production facility that involved essentially building a new pump station, all of the underground that goes into it, all during the operation and delivery of the water to the city without interruption. And so there's a lot of logistics and things that go into that that make that a particular challenge, and I'll talk about some of those as well. GMP 3 was which was construction GMP. The second contract on construction was the second phase of the water line that comes down the road here. The first phase was done under hard bid, and then the GMP took on the rest of it to bring water delivery here from Airport Zone coming out through the road that you drove on. The GMP 4, so in some of this is lessons learned, right? So we wanted to break up IPS into 3 GMPs in itself, and the value in that was to start the tanks, which take a lot of time to construct, and to do that, you've got to do the earthwork to get there. And so we kicked off, the city and the joint venture said we really should break these out and get started on that work while we're finishing design and pricing on the other stuff. And so that's what we did. And then the GMP 5 was an early procurement. And if you think about it, in 2001, 2002, we had that super inflation, right? And so we picked up on that when we did water production facility. Nobody was holding their numbers on mostly the material side because they were just fluctuating so quickly. So we said, let's go ahead and buy out all of the materials early, lock those prices in, and save that money and minimize that risk. And so that was GMP 5, which was the early procurement, and then GMP 6 was the rest of construction. And so, you know, it's in that CMAR format, it allows you to do a lot of that strategy, minimize a lot of that risk, and save on that cost by, you know, locking things in and taking on risk under a CMAR. During design, the value engineering that we had in concert with both design teams and construction and the city came out to about $2.5 million of savings in the design. And then there was around about $1 million of savings throughout construction. And that's just a continuation of value engineering, strategizing, and that excludes a lot of extra work that was done under the contract to still stay under the overall GMP. And, you know, there was some additional offsite tie-in work and things that we were able to do as a part of that. Getting to like the project challenges, you know, it's definitely a multifaceted job. So you've got underground, you've got above ground, you've got buildings, you've got tanks. There's just a lot of pieces that it takes that really just, you know, a single general doesn't have the expertise in those areas. And so we did pull on some key project partners like Bees on the buildings, and he's local with his company, DN Tank on the tanks, and just some of the local partners that DN's out of California, but they specialize. There's only a couple subs in the nation that do that type of work. So we had some some key project partners that helped put this together. Material lead times were a problem early on in the job because of the shortages. We had a resin shortage early on. We've had steel shortages and ductile. We've had appurtenances and a lot of parts that, you know, if you deliver a valve and it doesn't have the bolt pack that goes with it, you're not putting that together. So there's just a lot of challenges to get across the finish line, primarily at water production, and then those lessons learned were brought into here at IPS. Of course, there's a lot of different parties and agencies that are involved in this. We had to coordinate with ADOT and Chino and Prescott to kind of pull this whole program together. This site here wasn't the original site. I remember back in 2020 walking it with Craig D and some of the folks on, you know, what do you think about this site? And so there was a land swap that occurred with state land, and so there's just a lot that transpired throughout construction and design. Our project successes, you know, aside from the VEs, you know, really a keen focus on the quality of the project was in everybody's interest to make sure something's delivered that's going to last, that helps offset maintenance. And I think everybody accomplished that. Quick responses to, you know, meeting requests and field and getting out here at a moment's notice, which is nice being local to do that. You know, a lot of that local participation keeps those tax dollars here. Everybody that is getting paid a wage that lives here is putting that money back into the community, so that local hiring is really important. And this project did that across the board, with the exception of some certain trade partners that just don't exist here. And then just a general overall partnership with all the project players, and that's, you know, our key subs and our material vendors, who a lot are here today. The City of Prescott and Public Works and Water Department just have worked very hard on this and have done a fantastic job. Some of our land partners that were in the area and working with Ron, Jim, Bob Burris, like just trying to, you know, work together on this particular site, and you know, certainly, you know, everybody that was involved. It's been a long time coming. There's some old faces here that started the project and have moved on, and new faces that have joined us on the project, and it's just been an exciting job to be involved. We're very proud of it, and we hope you are too. So thank you.
Sorry, I'm vertically challenged. Lower this thing down. Right. There we go. Can you hear me? Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jason, for coming today and speaking. This truly is a legacy project, one that represents years of planning, partnership, and progress for the city. It started with the James family. I'd like to extend a sincere thank you for their collaboration in working with the city staff to identify this ideal location for the intermediate pump station. Their support played a critical role in setting the city up for success. Beyond the initial land acquisition and eventually the land swap that made this site possible, the James family also agreed to a design modification to the fencing that surrounds the facility, an adjustment that resulted in a significant savings of over $1 million for the city in both materials and labor. Their willingness to work with us demonstrates true stewardship, not only of the land, but of public resources as well. We're grateful to have such thoughtful and community-minded neighbors. In addition to the James family, there have been many other partners over the years that helped bring this project to reality. Fan Contracting, Fan Environmental, the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority. If not for them, who would have paid for this thing? Waterworks Engineers, Lion Engineering, and DN Tanks. But to be truthful, this vision started with Carollo Engineers, and specifically Richard Humphreys, who's here today somewhere. The city had the privilege to work with Richard and his team to develop short and long-range master plan documents for the city's water and sewer systems since 2005. That's nearly 2 decades of water infrastructure planning for the future needs of this community. The master plan identified the need for this intermediate pump station facility early on in order to resolve operational challenges and meet the requirements of ADWR, which I'll talk about a little more in a minute. But most importantly, in 2013, the plan began integrating water resource limitations as we knew that we did not have unlimited supply of water. This ultimately led to identifying what build-out would look like for the city and the service area. In addition to our community partners, I want to take a moment to recognize the many staff members along the way that identified the need for these facilities and worked during their time with the city to move the project further along. Former Public Works Directors Craig McConnell, Mark Natupsky, and Craig Dotseth. Former utility engineers Eric Bay and Bruce Ganavan, who are also here with us today. Project manager Jeff Lowe, who drove all the way from the Verde Valley to be with us today. Those folks were instrumental in helping us to make this project a reality, and we're so glad they could be here with us today to share in this accomplishment. I also want to recognize the hard work and dedication of the current staff, Deputy Directors Janet Ramsey and City Engineer Randy Perham, the Capital Program Team, Tim Sherwood, and specifically Scott McClinton. Where are you, Scott? There he is, our water guy. The Water Operations Team, Steve Olfers and Ben Burns, who played instrumental roles in this project, as well as Nathan Graham and the entire Water Operations Division, that not only worked diligently to complete the project, but they made the transition to bring the new system online and operate it to the benefit of this community. The construction of the intermediate pump station and water production facility is not a small accomplishment. It's a major milestone for this community. I was asked today to talk about the future of these facilities and what it might mean to the community. But before I talk about the future, I think it's important to talk a little bit about the past. Growth in Prescott has been pretty constant but steady at only 1 to 2% a year for many decades. And yet water for growth has always been at the forefront of every conversation. The first City of Prescott well was drilled at Del Rio Springs in Chino Valley, and the pipeline was constructed in 1901. This fell out of use in the 1920s when surface water was being used from the Granite Creek watershed that's located south of town. The city realized in the early 1940s that long-term sustainability of the water supply would require the reintroduction of groundwater from the Chino Valley area. So in 1946, the city hired a team called Leeds, Hill, and Jewett to conduct a study of the city's water supply options. In the study, it stated, Prescott grew rapidly in the early years of this century and reached more than 5,000 population by the 1910 census. In the 30 years following, growth was relatively slow, and by 1946, the population was estimated at 8,500 people. But it didn't reflect the true growth of the community. Just as we see today, there was a considerable population that was added in the residential areas outside of the city. This study ultimately led to the construction of the water production facility located in Chino Valley in 1947. That was 78 years ago. And until the city started drilling wells in the airport area in 2005, it was the only well field and production facility supplying water to all of the city's service area. And Mike gave us a real good picture of what that looked like. In 2005, the Department of Water Resources was concerned about the impacts to the aquifer due to the pumping from only the Chino Valley well field. So they directed the city to augment that pumping from the wells in Chino Valley and begin drawing water from wells closer to the airport where the city recharges. Having redundancy within the water system is one of our highest priorities, but to both minimize water outages for its customers and ensure long-term sustainable water reliability. So soon after receiving this directive, the city began drilling wells in the airport area. The first well drilled proved to be undevelopable. The second well is active and we use it still today. The third well is also operational, but it requires the treatment of arsenic before it can enter the water distribution system. The fourth well was also unfortunately undevelopable, and the fifth well, while it is the highest producing well in the airport area, will need PFAS remediation before it can be brought back online. These airport wells are vital components of the city's water production system, as they directly feed into this intermediate pump station, which provides redundancy to customers that are fed by the airport well field. In addition to redundancy in the airport area, building the water production facility and the intermediate pump station facilities together gave the city an opportunity to address another critical issue: high pressures in the transmission mains. Due to the elevation gain between Chino Valley and Prescott, pressures in the pipeline previously reached up to 400 psi. For those of you that aren't engineers, that's pounds of force per inch. This level of pressure not only created long-term wear on the infrastructure, but also posed real safety risks for the crews that work on the lines. While worker safety remains our highest priority, the reduced pressure also ensures extended durability of our water transmission systems, saving the city both time and resources. When the new system went online May 28th, Scott McClinton had the biggest smile on his face I've ever seen and reported that the pressures were reduced by nearly half, the lowest on record at 205 psi. These facilities were also identified in the long-range master plan as critical components needed for the future delivery of one of the biggest assured water supply resources for the city, the Big Chino Water Ranch. If you fast forward a bit to 2009, the city was in the process of updating its decision in order again, which included the city's right to pump water from the Big Chino Ranch to the city's service area, effectively moving water from the Big Chino Aquifer to the Little Chino Aquifer. These facilities are just some of the vital infrastructure that will be needed at some day in the future to make this happen. Today, the city has grown to a population of over 50,000 people and serves water to several thousand more homes and businesses outside of the city limits. As of 2022, we had 25,675 water accounts. According to projections from the 2023 Water Demand and Supply Model, the number of accounts is expected to grow by approximately 400 a year through the year 2040. Newer developments like Deepwell, Arizona Eco, and Granite Dells Estates are well underway and contributing to our thriving and vibrant community. Because of these facilities, the city has the capacity and the capability to serve the community now and far into the future. So today marks more than just the opening of a new facility. It marks a commitment to the future of Prescott. The intermediate pump station and water production facility are not simply infrastructure projects. They're foundational components of a long-term vision for water sustainability, reliability, and resilience in this community. As we continue to grow, adding thousands of new water accounts over the coming decades, these facilities will ensure that we are not only meeting today's demands, but we are responsibly preparing for tomorrow's needs. The ability to move water efficiently, to secure multiple sources, and build redundancy in our system reflects a forward-thinking approach to safeguard our most vital resource. Thanks to thoughtful planning, strong partnerships, and a shared commitment to stewardship, Prescott is well positioned to meet the challenges of the next century. The intermediate pump station and water production facility represent a promise that our water system will remain strong, reliable, and sustainable as the community that it serves. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the ladies that made today possible and the ladies that have supported us for the last 3 to 4 years as we've moved through this project. That would include Carrie Oberheim, Roxanne Eichenberry, Nicole Mecho, Mary Kay Anderson, Poppy Keegan, and Stevie Votter. I hope you can join us around the corner here in a few minutes for the actual ribbon cutting ceremony. We've got some gold scissors over there we're excited about. And after we do that, please feel free to wander through the facility, look around, ask questions of staff. I want to thank you for being here with us today. And here's to the continued prosperity and the resiliency of the city of Prescott.
3, 2, 1. Oh, dull scissors. Somebody cut it. I don't know. It wasn't the mirror.
Sharp? I think so.
Sharpen your scissors.
When we let everybody know they have a